Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Babbling Irons match review. West Ham 0, Chelsea 3. Sloth, there was a lot of stuff we spoke about in the preview, which we were optimistic about, but we also said with a caveat of we're going to have to be very, very careful in this game against a very good technical Chelsea team. And it didn't pay off at all. Lopetegui went brave, went bold, pretty much went for a man-for-man press across the board. And, we're going to go into the reasons as to why that didn't work, break down all of the goals and what happened and the issues that were around it, but also some of the positives. And I think a little bit of the reaction online has been taken out of proportion. We're going to kind of dissect it as a neutral and go into it with that mindset. So yeah, if you do enjoy the breakdown, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as that massively helps us out. First of all, Sloth, were you surprised with the lineup? We spoke about potentially what we would be going with. I think it was pretty much what we predicted, other than Todibo coming in for Mavropanos. The only difference really was the setup of playing Alvarez deeper, especially in the first half, almost in a back three alongside Kilman and Mavropanos instead of playing in midfield. Were you surprised that Lopetegui started the game with a back three, especially as we're going to get into, considering the likes of Cucurella goes in to overload the midfield? And yeah, what were your thoughts on that starting lineup and with Alvarez being in the back three?
Well, I mean, first of all, you said we had to be careful or wary of, and we just never really woke up, did we? We weren't at all in any way careful, and I think that's the biggest disappointment. Lineup-wise, it's pretty close to what we wanted. We both mentioned one of the big issues, potentially being a make or break issue or causing big issues, and I think that came back to haunt us once again. And I think Mavropanos just, I don't know if it was the back three that maybe made him just switch off and feel like he didn't have to be as.
I'm not going to make excuses for him being a back three because he's done it in a back four.
Yeah, I thought he was abysmal yesterday, and I don't know. Yes, I don't know if it lulled him into a false sense of security with that extra man next to him. But I was quite surprised with the three. I would have expected him to be higher up into that central defensive mid, especially since he's not the quickest. I think that's fair to say, and also that the overload that Chelsea have when they can push up against you, it's so reliant on you also being able to match their pace and also the physicality they have with Jackson. He is what a young Antonio was for us, incredibly frustrating, but a physical powerhouse and quick. And we just didn't seem to adjust for that. And I know that apparently the big reason that Todibo's not playing is because the managers said he's not fit enough. He's not match ready yet. And I just think that is a massive issue when you have someone like Mavropanos there.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And, as we said, we were surprised with the back three, especially because we said Chelsea, very good technically in central areas, and will, even invert someone like Cucurella to go and play in the midfield. So we're going to get into that. Just as an overview, just for the stats, if you haven't seen them, 53% to 47% possession to Chelsea in favour of West Ham. Expected goals, ours was only 0.85 compared to Chelsea's 2.19, which I thought would be higher, to be honest. 15 shots from us, 12 from Chelsea, 7 on target from us, 5 from Chelsea. But very, very key there. Like 0 big chances we had. They had 5 and they missed 2 of them. More passes than Chelsea, more fouls and more corners. So, there were elements to the game that I liked, to be honest. I know, the majority of it we didn't like, which we're going to get into. But I think we saw with Lopetegui, he's going to have to be very, very careful with how he wants to play with the types of players and, the system that we're trying to play. Because yesterday, playing a back three with a double pivot of Paqueta and Guido Rodriguez, I mentioned it in a preview that there's not enough, power in that midfield. We're going to get overrun very, very easily by their technical players, and it'll be so easy to break through. Even with Alvarez in midfield, to be honest, it's just too slow. It's not, for me, it's not dynamic enough. And we did see that, very early on with what Lopetegui wanted to do. He wanted to go pretty much man-for-man press onto Chelsea, very aggressive from the start. And we could see that in the opening, 2 minutes, 43 seconds. we can see the back five. Look, Alvarez has come out there. We've got Sancho highlighted, who we said in the preview is going to be that touchline winger to leave Wan-Bissaka 1v1. And look, 2 minutes in, Cucurella's going and playing midfield, and Kudus has got that space, which we mentioned being a massive, massive threat for us going forwards. Alvarez actually wins this ball, and this is where our first chance comes from. Kudus runs inside, shoots at Sanchez, and they get away with it, and we give a foul away. From that foul is where the first goal happens. So there's a positive to what we've just done there, but it's something that we need to caveat because that is not a sustainable way of playing, especially with Alvarez, Guido Rodriguez, Mavropanos, Paqueta. They're not fast enough. They're not quick enough to do that. And, they're not sharp enough to do that, to be a 1v1 press. So did you like the early encouragement like we just saw there? Our first chance actually came from us being very aggressive. Alvarez stepping out onto Enzo Fernandez, winning the ball back, transitioning, as we said, on that right-hand side while Cucurella's gone in. The idea was there, Sloth. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and I think that you can see how we wanted to play, and it, for me, highlighted one of the major issues of the summer. And, I think it's fair to say we had a very good window, but glaring positions that we've done the West Ham thing of not recruiting for, whether it's striker or whether it's in that centre mid. We had interest in Fofana across the summer. We apparently were interested in the big Swiss lad who's gone to Monaco now. But the names completely escape me.
Zakaria, is it him?
Zakaria, that's it. We had interest in Zakaria, and yet we never signed a player who matched that physical profile to come into West Ham. And I think yesterday really exposed the need for someone like that in our midfield, someone who's going to be an engine house, but with a bit of pace and power. And the lack of pace, the lack of physicality, but also the insistence on overplaying at times from certain players, I think causes major problems. And when you don't have someone to balance that out, it's a very big worry. And look, we, as you mentioned, we did some positive things, and it's becoming glaringly obvious that with the centre forward issue, it's gonna hurt us massively. There's no other way around it, because I read a stat that we've only created 7 big chances across the season so far. Now
that's low.
Look, it is the first game we haven't scored in. But that's not sustainable. And as you said, we've said on this channel for a long time, sustainable football is not like, we're trying to be eco-friendly or whatever, but you cannot perform against these big teams like this and expect to get a result. And if you do, you're very much fluking it. And yesterday, in combination with the likes of the Manchester City and the Villa performance, is prime example of that, and evidence for it.
I'll be honest, I think as the game got on, it got progressively worse with how we were trying to play. I know you're chasing the game at certain periods, but let's get into that first goal, because it actually came from, we stepped out, Mavropanos made that foul in that man-for-man press, similar to what we did with Alvarez in the screenshot we just showed, but we didn't win the ball. Jackson, I thought, had a fantastic game against our centre-backs, to be honest. As you say, won pretty much every duel against Mavropanos. And that's what it comes from. They take the quick free kick. Look at this. This is what we're doing with the man-for-man press straight away. Look, literally 3 minutes, 9 seconds, 30 seconds after we've had that big chance with Kudus. So we've got our back five kind of structured like this. Number 1, you can see Alvarez stepping out onto Jackson, being aggressive. Sancho holding this place here. We said in the preview, we know Sanchez isn't going to go out on the outside of Wan-Bissaka. He's going to be looking to be a technical player in the build-up and, release players like Jackson, Madueke, Palmer when possible. First thing, look how disjointed this is. Number 1, what is Wan-Bissaka doing? Just so square like that. The back 3 over the other side looks okay, but Alvarez is squeezed in, so we have to shift over. Mavropanos is flat-footed. As soon as this happens, this is what Mavropanos should do. Mavropanos should spot this danger here, should be covering the run of Jackson. Alvarez has let Jackson go off the back of him way too easily, and Wan-Bissaka's just stationary. It's just such an easy pass for Sancho to play down the line. even then, okay, there's been a couple of mistakes with how we've tried to play the man-for-man press, and you're thinking, okay, Mavropanos, just go across, deal with Jackson, usher it out for a throw-in, block it, tackle him, whatever you need to do. He doesn't do that. He just stays in the center. And what did we say against Fulham about looking over his shoulder and not concentrating? This was taken as a screenshot, and Mavropanos was looking over his shoulder for over a second, which is a long time to do. It should be a quick glance to scan what's coming. Okay, no danger, and then get across. Alvarez is ridiculously slow, which we said is a massive problem when you're playing in this, whether he's playing in a back line, midfield free. So Jackson just literally runs into space for about 60 yards unchallenged because Mavropanos has held the stationary part. Alvarez is so slow, he's stuck in the mud. And then Areola's just stationary on his line. And it's just such an easy finish under his legs. And it really frustrated me that is happening 3 minutes into a game. And if we're going to play a back three like that, which I completely disagreed with from Lopetegui, I think that's on him structurally to set up like that, because you're just going to get overrun. And, you're playing a back three with Alvarez, Mavropanos, and Kilman. It's not that mobile, and it's just so easy to get through. And Wan-Bissaka, I don't know what he was doing there, but also Mavropanos, just the awareness of what to do in that sort of situation was... I just could not believe that Jackson could just run through like that, Sloth. How does that get allowed to happen?
I just think it's defensively poor. And, I mentioned last week against Fulham about how I couldn't understand his decision making for the goal, and this is very similar in terms of he seems to be looking for something that's not there. Mavropanos is a very quick centre back. He I'm going to hold my hands up because I was a big fan of him at Stuttgart, and he isn't looking like the same player at all. He looks completely unsure of himself. He's not sprinting for one, and he seems like he is not even attempting to make tackles.
Why does he not come across here, Sloth, in this situation as a centre-back? Surely you read this danger, there's nothing to your left, a quick communication with Kilman, usher that out of play and stop the threat. Why does he stay centrally, and why does he look over his shoulder again for over a second in the centre of the pitch when Jackson's sprinting past him? He's just jogging back.
I think he's either expecting someone to sprint into the box and follow in, someone like maybe Palmer, to be in that central area and pick up any sort of knockback or follow up on it. And I think he's expecting that. But it goes completely against what you're taught as a defender, in the sense that you deal with the issue that is, the man with the ball is the most dangerous. And if you have got 2-3 other players on the other side of you, let them deal with the people running into space. But also you can talk. You can usher people over and bring them into the space. If you're going over and committing to a challenge, just let them know.
Yeah,
it's wild to me that the decision making is so poor, and with a big 6'3+ centre back who is rapid, he's not chasing things down. And I think probably the worst defensive performance I've seen in a while from a West Ham player. It's very concerning that even these basic things, like last week, it's and against Crystal Palace, it's a stupid flick that he doesn't need to do. Last week, it was relying on a linesman when you have VAR to come in and assess if there's any offside possibility. You commit to the game in front of you. You don't wait until the refs whistle. You play to it, and he just doesn't seem to be doing that at the moment. And I don't actually think there's an answer as to why on earth he's done that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think it also came from playing that back three line. And, we saw 2 instances there in 30 seconds where Alvarez has been instructed to be aggressive. He is an aggressive player to go man for man. He wins it against Enzo first, so he's got that confidence. And then he goes in onto Jackson. Jackson does well to play it to Sancho. But Wan-Bissaka, again, square up, just letting him play that ball down the line, just completely out of line with how we're trying to play in that back five. That's the issue I have with, number one, playing that back three. And number two, Lopetegui deserves the criticism for this because he's told them to play man for man from the start. Okay, we're going to be aggressive. Great, that's fine. but you have to have a structure behind it. You can't just go gung-ho within 4 minutes going man for man, especially playing in a back three, because if you're going to go man for man, you're going to see Mavropanos step out. You're going to see Alvarez step out, which happened time and time again, which we're going to go into as well. And it just makes massive gaps if you're playing a back three. If you're playing a back four, if Alvarez is stepping up into that, at least you've got a little bit more assurance with your back four behind you. And, there's a little bit more structure in that. If you're playing a back three, think of the space that is in a back three. It's completely different to a back four where you're a lot more rigid and your fullbacks are more compact. Wan-Bissaka and Emerson play a lot wider in a back three, which then allows the space for someone like Jackson to just run through on goal and, unchallenged. So do you think Lopetegui deserves the criticism for the initial approach as well, or is this more of a personnel issue for you, Sloth?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think Lopetegui definitely deserves criticism for the fact that the game plan completely failed. And I think when you look at the personnel in the midfield, they were way out of their depth. And I don't want to sound like I'm, just constantly picking on players, but when you give a performance like that and you're giving the ball away, or you're not quick enough into the challenge, or you're easily overpowered, I think Guido and Paqueta deserve a lot of criticism as 100%. Well. And one of the things that would have frustrated me is we talk about, Lopetegui wanted aggression and intensity. Well, what the hell is Mavropanos doing? Where is that aggression? There's no effort to sprint. Like, it's embarrassing. And I think that when you are so early into a game of football as well, it's basic, I'm not going to say male stuff, but like, it's basic football stuff. When you go into leave your name on him or put a challenge and he's going to remember it. Like, where the hell was any of that intensity? Where was any of that aggression? I don't remember. Like, the biggest challenge that I can think of was when Moise Caicedo went in on one of our players, and it was a fantastic challenge, but where's that aggression? It was really poor. And I think that as much as Lopetegui deserves criticism, the players on the pitch, they need to be held accountable as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a blend of, both. And, as you said there, this situation, there should not be two players contributing to a goal here, and that happens when you've got this back five like this. It should not happen, but we didn't learn from it, Sloth. We mentioned in the preview that Cucurella going inside is an area we can massively exploit, but we also need to be very, very careful because Chelsea have some fantastic technical players. And I said it in the preview, with the lack of mobility we have in that midfield, they'll play around us. And if we're going to be switching off, this is what's going to happen. And this is what happens for the second goal. In the 17th minute? So 15 minutes after they've scored their first, Cucurella's gone into the middle. You're thinking, okay, this is fine right now. We're pretty set as we are. Paqueta's on Cucurella if he needs to be. Guido is following Palmer, which he did throughout, because, again, Lopetegui's instructions was probably to stay man for man, and the likes of Mavropanos stayed on Jackson, Guido stayed on Palmer. Like, that's what we were trying to do. If we just move it forwards a little bit, you can see there Palmer's drifted to the right very, very cleverly. It occupies that space in the midfield for Cucurella to go into, and it just creates that space for this to happen. Kudus starts the press, goes straight into Colwill. They haven't got a left back because Cucurella's in there. So you're thinking at this point, okay, stay man for man, but be careful. Because we know what we're going to do here. We're going to press in man for man. That's exactly what we do. In this screenshot here, Mavropanos, nowhere near Fernandes, comes in again, trying to press. Again, I know this has been told. He's been told to do this, but you have to have in-game football knowledge and a brain to know when to press and where to press a player. And if you're going to do this, what are you doing? And then this is the positive of having Cucurella in midfield, because he picks up the space. Paqueta's drawn to Cucurella. Caicedo gets left free. To be fair, Enzo plays a really, really nice pass into Caicedo. But then look how structurally incorrect this is, because Mavropanos is out here. Guido Rodriguez is trying to cut the line off from Palmer. Alvarez has been beat again because he's tried to go in onto Jackson while Mavropanos has gone in and he's just left the space in to turn behind. Because we're playing a back three, there's so much space to play in. And look at the structure of our back five in the yellow lines there. It's unbelievable what we're leaving ourselves with by pressing man for man. Mavropanos is higher than Guido Rodriguez. Wan-Bissaka's in no man's land because he's drawn towards Sancho on the touchline, which we again said was going to be an issue for us on this left-hand side that we need to be careful of. And we just lack so much pace. It's just we get killed on transition. Jackson takes a really nice touch inside. And again, Areola makes it so easy for him, just so easy for him. He just stays stationary like that. And it's the easiest goal Jackson's going to score. It was easier than the first goal. So many mistakes there, Sloth. So many issues. And you can see I'm getting frustrated by it because it was happening throughout the entire 90 minutes. And not once did we try and adjust that. Not once did Lopetegui realize, okay, this isn't working. Chelsea are technically better than us. Let's be a little bit careful here. Let's stop pressing out like maniacs without any structure behind it. Why did we continue to do it? And why did we allow stuff like that to happen 17 minutes into a match?
I honestly couldn't give you an answer. I think unless we're trying to persist with this formation or try and get the squad comfortable with playing it, I honestly don't have an answer for you. I think it was shocking stuff. And again, it's basic sort of Sunday league stuff where you're watching how they play, and they would have practiced this system, yet as soon as they got onto the pitch, they have no idea what's happening. And there was so much space, as you mentioned, the space between the defenders, but we were leaving massive pockets. And Chelsea have the quality to just play a dink in a little ball behind our centre-backs for Jackson to run onto. The negation of pace that we should have with someone like Mavropanos just simply doesn't exist at the moment. He's not switched on enough. And I think that when you talk about those types of balls being played in, I made the point yesterday on my Twitter that we kept trying to play like these same little passes in, but we were just playing them too straight, or they were completely overhit, or in the terms of our crosses and delivery into the box, they were straight. They were far too close to the keeper. And this is where Chelsea, you can press them and try and beat them man for man, but their players are all technically incredibly high level. And I mean this with respect. I think Kudus and Bowen, probably the only two who can reach that sort of technical level. Maybe Somerville, but Paqueta's far too inconsistent with it, and some of the passes he plays are woeful. It's the sort of thing that at Sunday league level you would get frustrated with. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's a bad footballer, because he's not. It would be idiotic of me to say he is a bad footballer. But there needs to be major work done with this side. And whether we talk to Paqueta about simply not giving the bloody ball away, or, playing more diagonal balls, instead of just trying to do a stupid little straightforward pass. Yeah, a dink that 9 times out of 10 the centre-back's going to gobble up. Or if you're close to the edge of the area and you're playing a dink over, it needs to be perfect.
Yeah.
It has to be 100% on the money for the centre-back to not deal with it, or for the goalkeeper to not come out and claim it. But we're not doing that. We're not looking capable of doing that. And yet we're trying to play this way. So I don't know if it's just players have been coached in a certain way across the week and they're abandoning it as soon as they decide to see, well, I can play a pass now if I suddenly want to play Hollywood football, or Mavropanos just gets lost in the lights or something. I'm not sure what's going on, but it's like they abandon the system. And when Jackson's able to carve you open so easily, with all due respect to Nicholas Jackson, he's basically an Antonio regen. And when you are, playing against him, you have Antonio. You know how he plays football. You know that Nicholas Jackson's going to run the channels. He's going to offer you an outlet, and he's going to physically try and challenge the defenders. So what was going on? I'm completely lost.
I don't understand why we played a back three. I could not fathom it. I just did not understand why we would try and do that against a Chelsea team that are so good technically. Palmer, Madueke, Sancho, Caicedo, Enzo, they're all players that can get on the ball and play. And that is what happened with that second goal. And it's just so easy to create an overload in there. And, you know, we tried to play this back three. It just didn't work. We're not going to talk about the penalty because we both agree it's a penalty. I think everyone watching, you know, agrees it was a penalty. Again, could have changed the game at 2-0. But to be honest, I'm not going to go into that in too much detail because Chelsea could have scored 6, 7, 8 goals yesterday. And, you know, we didn't change how we were playing at all. And, you know, at 2-0 down, you're chasing the game. The first thing I would just want to talk about before we go into the second half is Guido Rodriguez getting subbed off for Souček, before the 40th minute. What were your thoughts on that, Sloth, and the type of substitution that it was? Because we still stayed in the back three at that point. You know, Souček just came in for Guido. Do you think that was harsh from Lopetegui to do that, especially before half time? And are you surprised that Souček was the player to come in for him?
Well, I thought he must have been injured. That's what I thought, because otherwise I think it was harsh. But we were getting carved open, and you need to be smart. But it's incredibly frustrating, you know, as I mentioned, when we are looking at recruiting a certain type of player and we just never follow up with it. And Souček is many things. He's physically commanding and imposing. He will give you work rate, and, you know, he can cover a lot of ground, but he's not going to give you pace.
No.
And we still face the same issues that we had when Guido was there. You know, I'm not saying that Souček wasn't a step up, because I think he did offer a bit more. He got physically stuck in more, and I think he was a bit more switched on defensively. But even that's still being a bit kind. He just seemed a bit out of his depth as well, and lost for pace. So I think the substitution at 28 minutes is one that I kind of don't really understand. It probably did help in the long term, but you're still talking about a 3-0 loss. You know, I would have been more surprised I would have been less surprised if we changed from the back three to go into a back four and decided to put Alvarez as a DM. Or, you know, I said a couple of weeks ago, if you're going to play 5 at the back, why don't you just drop Souček in? You know, he's frustrating, and he's not the technically greatest footballer. But if you're going to try and stick with that system, why don't you just play him? Because he's going to win almost every single duel aerially. He's going to physically get stuck in, but you can't tell me that he'd have had a worse game than Mavropanos. And you would have allowed yourself to, you know, maybe let Alvarez be the most advanced of the three.
I mean, look, Mavropanos was terrible yesterday, but he wasn't the only one in that back line that was that terrible. I don't want us to just think it was Mavropanos. Alvarez was awful. Alvarez was absolutely awful. And again, he's not, in my mind, he's not a centre back. I know he plays centre back a lot and, you know, does it for Mexico. He's just not a centre back, especially in a back three where he was trying to play in the middle. Then he went to right centre back at one point to try and change things up. That cannot happen. And if you're going to change it, you're going to take Guido Rodriguez off because it's not working. Okay, that's fine. But you cannot stay with a back three and just put Souček in instead of Guido Rodriguez and expect a different outcome. That is, for me, insanity. That is insanity. I cannot believe that Lopetegui thought that was the right substitution to do. If he's going to go into a back four and bring off one of the midfield for another midfielder, okay, fine. You want to change things up, but at least you're changing the structure of the team as well. But I mean, it just didn't happen. We went into the second half, so if you're thinking, right, 2-0, we're probably going to lose this game, but we're not out of it yet. If we change a few things, you know, go to a back four, be patient, don't go gung-ho, you know, relax a little bit, because Chelsea defensively weren't that good. It was actually quite easy to get through to Chelsea midfield and, you know, to the bylines. And I thought Somerville and Kudus in the first half actually played quite well. They offered us quite a lot of transitional threat. They were beating their fullbacks. Kudus was fantastic. Bowen kind of let me down out of the front three. I thought he didn't hold the ball up, you know, nearly well enough. And again, comes back to your point about lacking a striker. Duran scoring again for Villa, which we're not going to mention. But yeah, let's get into this third book goal, because this one, I'm going to try and stay level-headed, but this one frustrated me the most out of all three, because I just want to highlight this. 45:57 on the clock, Sloth. Less than a minute into the second half, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players here, which means we've got 2 players out of shot, which is Kilman and Mavropanos at the back. So we've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players in the box. Alvarez and Paqueta just outside. So there's 7, and Emerson back here at 8. Kudus loses the ball. Wan-Bissaka's overloaded on the right-hand side. Okay, fine. Right. What's our position going to be here to make sure that when we're in this position, we don't get absolutely torn apart? What's our structure? Right. Let's, right. What we're going to do? What we're going to do? Right. Alvarez, you go in and press and leave the gap. Let's do it. Let's man-for-man press because that's worked in the first half so well. Let's just go straight in and completely expose ourselves in the midfield. Okay, you know what? We don't win it. Mavropanos, you come in because you've done so well against Jackson. You come and win that ball and leave Kilman by his back line. Wan-Bissaka, Kudus is fine. Stay there. We're going to win the ball. Don't get back. We're good. Okay, let's move it on. Oh, we haven't won the ball. Oh, shock. Oh, they're countering us. Right, get back. Kilman, get back. Emerson. All right, Alvarez, sprint. Paqueta, sprint. Look in the top of your picture with Paqueta and Alvarez. We said how slow Alvarez is. This next shot, he's passed him. Paqueta's been jogging the whole way back, and Alvarez has managed to pass him, trying to get back. Wan-Bissaka and Kudus are out of shot. They're just jogging back, walking back. They couldn't give a fuck, to be honest. And then moving on, a great pass from Jackson, a great touch from Palmer. And again, look at Paqueta and Alvarez's position there. Unbelievable what Paqueta did in this transition. I cannot believe the attempt to get back from Lucas Paqueta in this situation. And the whole structure of this goal, look, fantastic finish from Palmer, by the way. And I don't want to discredit that goal. It was a fantastic finish from that angle on his left foot to hit off the post and in. But what on earth are we doing 1 minute into the second half? Why are we playing like we're chasing an equaliser in the 96th minute, 1 minute into the second half off? What has Lopetegui said at half time for that to happen?
It's just complete and utter naivety. And I think when, I come back to a point where I genuinely think there's an issue in terms of the understanding of the game. And if someone like Mavropanos isn't willing to if they're not willing to sprint, or if they're not learning that actually I'm struggling a bit against Jackson, you know what, I'm going to swap with someone else, or maybe at half time I'm going to talk to Lopetegui and say, look, maybe I need to switch sides. Maybe you need to bring someone else on.
No. Mavropanos doesn't need to say that, Sloth. Lopetegui should know that. Lopetegui should be identifying that.
Yeah, I'm not making excuses for Lopetegui. I'm just saying communication wise, it should be a case that it's very openly talked about.
Yeah.
And if he's saying, look, I'm getting killed by Nicholas Jackson, I need someone to come over and help me out.
Help me.
Why are his why is one of his centre backs suddenly miles up and pressing man for man, and why none of the midfielders covering? It's wild that.
Well, why has Alvarez gone in here? I know we moved Alvarez into the midfield, but why is his instant trigger here to press and leave the gap in behind? Why is that still happening when we've seen what happened in the first half?
Absolutely no idea. I think he's got a rush of blood to the head.
He was awful yesterday, man. Really bad.
Terrible. And I think it was a prime example of when a player has come from a very dominant side in a league, or not the most dominant, but a side who are very comfortable on the ball and will expect to win most games. And when he's been asked to play as a centre-back, he expects almost a very similar thing. Like, my opposition aren't going to be able to hurt us as much. And I've also got players around me who can, cover any mistakes I make, or I can rely on my goalie because they're going to be one of the stronger ones in the league. And look, Areola's a great keeper, but he was terrible yesterday.
Yeah.
And Kilman's a great centre-back, but it wasn't his best game yesterday.
He's
and
okay.
But I think that when you have all those combinations, you as a centre-back, if you're playing centre-back, and as a central defensive, you need to understand that and say, actually, I can't take the same time that I normally would. I can't press in the same way that I used to when I was playing in central defensive mid. I need to be more defensive-minded because I'm not playing at one of the top 4 sides in my league. I need to be aware of that. And he just looked completely out of his depth yesterday. And I think brain dead is a very very harsh word, but
look, at least like, one thing I will say about Alvarez is his work rate he never shies away, in my opinion. He is someone that works hard, and you could see that from when he was tracking back after pressing in and, you know, sprinting from their edge to our edge.
but
Paqueta in that situation, Slough.
There is a balance where
there is
where you understand that trying to overcompensate for others is just hurting himself. And you know, when he presses in man for man,
oh, it's stupid there to press.
How you can't see that, you know, you're leaving so much space in behind and you're leaving yourself exposed. I don't know. That's just basics.
Especially because he's I mean, look, he knows he's the anchor in this situation. Even here, he's too high, to be honest. Like, this is too high up as a midfield. And you can see Souček's gone into the box to try and be that presence for crosses. And okay, Souček's going to be the one to wander in. Alvarez and Paqueta are going to sit. Why are they this high? And why on earth does this happen where we lose the ball here? Alvarez is sprinting here. Paqueta's here. And he bypasses him like this, Slough. What is Paqueta doing? Does Paqueta deserve criticism in this situation? Because I think that went under the rug a little bit with Paqueta and, you know, trying to get back in that situation.
There was like one of the players, I might sound a bit daft saying this, one of the players I was really impressed with yesterday was Palmer. I was really impressed with his overall play, and like, that's not going to shock anyone. What I was really impressed with was his dark arts and how he was, you know, constantly sort of taking an extra yard from free kicks. He was, you know, winding players up, but also
so many fouls.
Yeah, well, you want so many fouls, but also he was getting stuck in and giving away fouls when we had a chance to counter, or you know, any hint of danger, he would, you know, give away a foul or win a foul. And it was really impressive to see a player that switched on, an English player that switched on, a young English player that aware of the dark arts. That is what Paqueta should be doing. And in that situation, he should be sprinting back and giving away a tactical foul. You know, saying, I've had to either get a yellow card and let everyone reset, or, you know, I'm going to just take someone out and it's going to give us the time to at least set up a wall from there. It was really frustrating. And you know, I think Chelsea were very, very good at that yesterday. They did it with every single set piece we had, because they knew that our set pieces were quality. They would encroach an extra yard. They would take that extra step. And the referee needed to be stronger. Look, there's no excuses on the end result of the game. But that's the sort of thing where it makes difference. It's a fine margin. And look, if Paqueta gets stuck in there and gives away a free kick, he may well get booked, but we may well not concede a third goal. And it's just a lack of work rate, it's a lack of effort, and it's also a lack of understanding of the risk that you're facing.
Yeah, I think as well, like, this is, for me, more on what Lopetegui is telling his team to do 1 minute into the second half. This cannot happen, and the reaction cannot happen as well. The reaction's not good enough from this team when we lose the ball to trigger. Look at the best team that has the best reaction in the league is Arsenal. When they lose the ball, or when there's a transition happen, every player knows where they needs to be. Every player knows the structure they need to get into, and they do it at pace. They don't amble back. They don't look at others to think, oh, right, are you going to win the ball before I track back? Like, Alvarez goes in, loses it. Right, Mavropanos, are you going to win this? Do I need to get back? Okay, I should probably start running back now. It's naive. As you said at the start, it is tactical naivety against a Chelsea team that's a very good technically. And look, yesterday, Chelsea deserved to win by 4, 5, 6 goals. I'll be honest. They should have had us out of sight. We could have dissected more situations in this match that look identical to what we've just shown you, but there's no point, because we all know what happened yesterday, especially in the second half. But it was just incredibly naive of us to think that we can play man-for-man press against Chelsea when, A, they've got better technical quality than us across the pitch, B, we don't have the mobility in midfield, which we highlighted in the preview, and C, we're playing a back three in the first half with a Guido Paqueta double pivot against that Chelsea team. I cannot believe that is the structure that Lopetegui thought was going to be successful. Look, Lopetegui, the reaction online has been completely overdone. People like Jacob Steinberg, I cannot believe the stuff he was tweeting yesterday. It's ludicrous, that sort of thing. So many big fan accounts on West Ham Twitter. You can say what you want, but the reaction is it's chop and change every week. A few weeks ago against Crystal Palace, Kilman was the best centre-back in the world. Mavropanos had a blinder, and he's a fantastic addition to the back four. Wan-Bissaka's the best right-back we've ever seen. And now everyone's turning on these players within 2 weeks, and your opinion's changed after 2 games. Lopetegui deserves criticism for how this season has started. He's absolutely right in the fact that it's been a tough start, especially at home. But that's not an excuse for what we're seeing on the pitch, especially against a team like Chelsea and the approach of what we're trying to do. There was some good stuff yesterday. I thought we created some good chances throughout the game. It's just not executing those chances. We get into good situations, but we're not creating a big chance from it. We're still too dependent on someone like Kudus to make something happen. Somerville showed it yesterday. He was trying to make stuff happen. Yeah, we should have had a penalty, but again, the end result, in my opinion, would still have been the same. I know it's difficult to say that, but it probably would have with the way we were playing. So Lopetegui deserves criticism, but the reaction's over the top. It's way over the top. 5 games in. We said on this channel he deserves around 15 to 20 games before you can actually assess, right, you've had a long time here. You've had a full preseason. We need to start seeing stuff. However, to caveat that, he has had quite a long time now. He's made a lot of signings. Again, he's got rid of someone like Ward-Prowse and brought in Soler, which isn't looking like a good decision at all right now. He's brought in, Guido Rodriguez to play with Alvarez. Okay, it's a great free signing if he wants to be, rotating, but we didn't sign that box-to-box midfielder, which we've been crying out for all summer for the past 3 seasons. He's brought in Todibo, hasn't played him. He's brought in Kilman. Okay, he's been okay, but he spent £40 million on him. He's brought in Wan-Bissaka. Okay, this is what you want to do. Why have you got Wan-Bissaka bombing forwards in the 46th minute when his best asset is defensive and he can actually stop those transitions? It's things like that you have to start questioning the manager on. I know it's still 5 games, and these next few weeks for Lopetegui is going to be pretty important for him, because we go to Liverpool next in the cup. We go to Brentford away, which is a very difficult game, and we never really win there in the league. I don't think we've actually won there in the league from my memory. I know we beat them in the cup, but then we've got Ipswich at home after that. So three massive games, to be honest, because we could be out of a cup and we could be starting to get away from the top half. So what's your thoughts on it, Sloth? Lopetegui, how much criticism is he warranting right now? And was the reaction online overrated, or over the top from yesterday?
He deserves a lot of criticism, and I think that when you look, we've made excuses, and I think rightly so, for the fact that we've played Manchester City and Aston Villa very early on at home, but I think when you're going into a London derby, there's certain things that fans expect, and there's certain things that are basic to football that we just didn't show yesterday. And that, to me, is completely unacceptable. Now, he does deserve a chance to actually just give them an absolute walloping and say, like, what the hell was that? And part of that is on him, but you're the manager and you're the captain of the ship. You have to turn it around. So I think when you're talking about the criticism that they face as a whole, at the end of the day, the players could have the best manager in the world, but if they don't go out and perform, then they're going to lose. So the Liverpool game is absolutely massive. If we win that, then there's suddenly a feel-good vibe, because let's face it, how often do we beat Liverpool? And it has.
The performance against Liverpool is going to be important as well. If we get rolled over and try and do stupid stuff, and we're making the same mistakes, and we ship 4 or 5 goals, then you have to start questioning how we're doing it. If you're going to Anfield with that approach, then there's something not right there. There's something not right with He mentioned in pre-season that he's a flexible coach. He's someone that will adjust to different situations. He tried to be flexible yesterday by moving to a back 3. It was just completely the wrong idea. It was just, again, I'm not going to get into it, but look, there's still a long way to go. We've played 5 games, or I think 5 games of the Premier League season. There's still a long time to go. This time last season, I know people were saying, be careful what you wish for. It's not, there's no correlation there. It still needed to change in the summer with the appointment, but that's happened now. We're focusing on Lopetegui and what he's building.
Well, look, I think it's totally naive to say that, he walked into this West Ham side that was ready to challenge for the top half. Okay, you tell me if an injury had happened to Kudus, where the class and the quality is coming from. You know, if one of our best players gets injured, and I know you can say that about most teams, but you shouldn't be saying that about teams chasing Europe. You should be saying they have quality to cover. And when you look at, the most important position in terms of goal scoring, we do not have any quality. And I don't mean that with disrespect to Danny Ings or Antonio. I thought Antonio, when he came on yesterday, was terrible. He had two very good chances. He had two very good chances when the difference between the centre forwards were shown. He has an abysmal first touch on one of them, and he gets it tangled under his feet on the other. And I think he then hits it straight at the keeper. But it's really basic stuff that is worrying. But again, going back to my point about building the squad, if we'd stuck with Moyes and people going, be careful what you wish for, well, potentially we could have kept Zuma. Potentially all these things could have happened. And these are all ifs and buts. However, you have to move on from that. There was someone who came up to the pub yesterday and said, I think Lopetegui's got to go, hasn't he? What are you talking about? No. What are you on about? You're 6 games in, and we've looked decent in a few of them. We went away to Crystal Palace, and we got fairly lucky because of errors from someone like Mavropanos that gave them great chances. But there is far too much of a job left to do to make a judgment on this set of players. And I think that while you can say he was incredibly naive yesterday, he will have learned a lot from that. And he's got to go and earn his money and basically turn it around and say, this is how we're going to play from now on, and this is plan B, and this is how I get the best out of a front three, or how I try and integrate a back five, if that's what he wants to do. But you need to make it work, and you need to make it work fast.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we said it at the start of the preseason. There's a massive transition that's going to happen at this football club. He's not coming into a settled team. It's similar with what happened with Arsenal under Arteta. How long did Arsenal fans want Arteta out for? They've given him time. They've backed the manager to allow him to integrate his processes, sign the players that he wanted to. Again, there's definitely nuances, and I'm not comparing Lopetegui to Arteta, but the situation is the same. Arteta went into a complete mess at Arsenal. Lopetegui's come into a pretty similar mess with the amount of transfer dealings we've had to do, and the players last season. Let's remember, we conceded the most goals we've ever conceded in the Premier League in one season last year under David Moyes. So let's forget that last season was amazing and we were top of the league after 4 games. Okay, well, in the second half of the season we were absolutely abysmal. And if you why are you judging someone after 5 games? If we did that under Slaven Bilic at Upton Park, he would have got sacked, because we lost at home to Bournemouth, we lost at home to Leicester. We got some good away wins in that period. And people are comparing it to last year. It's ludicrous. Just focus on what's happening now. Yes, it hasn't been good enough. We've lost to Man City, which rightly we deserve to. We've lost to Chelsea, we rightly deserve to. We lost to Villa, rightly deserved to. We got a good point against Fulham, very lucky in that sense. And Crystal Palace could have gone either way, and we got the win. Now it's time to platform to build on. Our next 2 league games, Brentford and Ipswich, these are games we should be winning if we want to finish in the top half. So let's see how it goes. I think fundamentally this game was not good enough. The approach was completely wrong. Lopetegui has to hold his hands up, and Lopetegui has to very quickly understand that these players are not good enough to play how he wants to play right now. And we don't have the assets we do. We don't have a Declan Rice in midfield that can eat up ground and, can play this man-for-man press and stop those transitions. We don't have a marauding centre-back like Saliba or someone like that can just, completely negate transitions like Jackson's first goal yesterday. So we have to be more smart. And in the second half, that third goal cannot happen. It cannot happen. That cannot be the instructions from Lopetegui to have 8 players in their half within the first minute and having no transitional kind of negation system where you'd want to stop that from happening. But again, we've dissected it. We could talk about this for ages. We can tell we're very, very frustrated right now. But look, let us know in the comments down below. What do you think about Lopetegui? What do you think about the whole system right now? And the opening 5 games. Does he deserve more time? How long do you give Lopetegui before you start to look elsewhere? And, you know, there could be potential pressure put onto him. But yeah, that's going to be all for today. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed the breakdown. Subscribe to the channel, as we mentioned at the start, as that massively helps us out. And Sloth, until the next one,
come on, you
come on,
irons.
you irons.